If you're hearing this right now, it means that our big tech overlords have not shut down this podcast yet. Actually, those big tech overlords were just called in for a hearing at Capitol Hill, and they didn't have very much to say for themselves. We will get into all of it. This is Verdict with Ted Cruz. Welcome back to Verdict with Ted Cruz. I'm Michael Knowles. You want to talk about a slow ball? This question was posed to Tim Cook of Apple and Sundar Pichai of Google and Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook and Jeff Bezos at Amazon, who, it was kind of funny, he forgot to unmute his microphone. This is one of the most powerful tech executives in the world, couldn't work the mic. That was a sidebar. The question was very simple. Is China stealing U.S. technology? Let's take a listen to their answers.
I have a question for all four, yes or no answer. Do you believe that the Chinese government steals technology from U.S. companies? Start with Mr. Cook.
I don't know of specific cases where we have been stolen from by the government.
So you don't believe that the Chinese government's stealing technology from U.S. companies, or you're just saying that not from yours?
I'm saying I know of no case on ours where it occurred, which is I can only speak to firsthand knowledge.
Mr. Pichai, do you believe that the Chinese government steals technology from United States companies?
Congressman, I have no firsthand knowledge of any information stolen from Google in this regard.
Mr. Zuckerberg?
Congressman, I think it's well documented that the Chinese government steals technology from American companies.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Bezos?
I have heard many reports of that, and I haven't seen it personally, but I've heard many reports of it.
So of all the different products that Amazon carries, you haven't seen that in any of the companies that sell products on Amazon or your company yourself?
Oh, well, certainly there are knockoff products, if that's what you mean, and there are counterfeit products and all of that. But the Chinese, if the answer is the Chinese government stealing technology, that's the thing I've read reports of, but don't have personal experience with.
Of all four of these titans of big technology, only Mark Zuckerberg would admit what we've all known for decades: China is stealing our stuff.
Well, unfortunately, it's an example of how big business is terrified of China, and they're willing to prostitute themselves because they want money. China, they are murderers, they torture people, and they have made intellectual property theft and espionage a state strategy to go after America. Big tech knows that. They know that fully well. But they're so interested in access to the markets and to billions of dollars that they're terrified of saying anything critical. And it's big tech in particular has been a willing partner in this. And calling it out is hugely important right now.
Of course, especially as we're looking toward November. And by the way, it's not just big tech that's sucking up to China. You also saw, there was a report that just came out of ESPN that the NBA is operating some training camps in China that have huge abuses at it. And I can't help but mention, I saw you get into a bit of a spat with an NBA team owner, Mark Cuban, over the past week, where I don't even remember the introduction of what Cuban was saying. And you said, hey, Mark, are you willing to criticize China in the same way you're criticizing the United States? And he wouldn't do it. He refused to do it.
Well, what happened, so this started out, Mark Cuban was having a Twitter fight with a guy named Mark Davis, who is a radio host in Dallas. He's a good friend, and Mark Davis had pointed out that he was going to be really unhappy if the Dallas Mavericks all take a knee during the national anthem and disrespect the national anthem. And he said he loved going to the NBA games, but he just might not go if they do that. And Mark Cuban, who owns the Maverick, theoretically should want his fans to show up, tweeted out essentially, bye-bye, we won't miss you, get the hell out. And I saw that, and I'm paraphrasing. The "get the hell out" was implied, but I engaged and retweeted that exchange and said something to the effect of gosh, do you think it's going to work out well for the NBA to tell half their fans, go jump in a lake. That's a very odd business strategy to be saying to every police officer, to every soldier, to every veteran, to everyone who actually believes in respecting the flag, we don't want you to come anymore. We don't want you as customers. That's a very odd business strategy. So I retweeted the exchange and said that. So Cuban comes by, and he actually gets pissy. So I guess when I retweeted it, I didn't tag his Twitter handle. I retweeted it to millions of people in the world. It's not like my response was hidden or secret.
Or private, yeah.
But he comes back and says, well, Ted doesn't have the balls to tag me by name. So look, when I was sitting down assessing all the things that were going to happen in the past week, Mark Cuban questioning my testicular fortitude, that was not on the list. I didn't have that.
No. Wouldn't have put my money on that. No.
And so I responded. I said, speaking of balls, Mark, and I tagged him this time. Tell us, what do you think of China? I'll wait.
Right.
And I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
Because he was terrified to answer. Because the NBA, China is a giant cash register. And, I read that ESPN story, the investigation they did. Mm-hmm. It's horrifying. So they had 3 camps, the NBA did in China, run by the Chinese government. These are Chinese kids, teenagers, 13, 14 years old. The Chinese coaches were beating the kids, physically beating the kids. There are reports of one Chinese coach throwing a ball point blank into the face of a child. There's another, and then kicking him in the gut. They were beating these kids, not just that. These are kids that are at an academy that when the NBA announced with great fanfare will be great for the development of these kids. Turns out there's no school. They're not teaching, and we're talking 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. They're not teaching them to read or write or anything else. And so there were all these coaches who complained, said, listen, most of these kids are going to end up taxi drivers because they're not getting an education. Right. And they're being beaten by the Chinese coaches. And the NBA is looking for the next Yao Ming. Look, I'm in Houston, Texas right now. Yao Ming was our center. Yeah. He was a great player. But the NBA made a lot of money. And even more stunning, so one of these camps was in Xinjiang, the province in China, where there are over 1 million Uyghurs, an ethnic and religious minority in China, that are in concentration camps. That's one of the things I asked Mark Cuban. Tell us what you think of the Uyghurs in concentration camps. Crickets, not a word. So this NBA camp, many of the kids there were Uyghurs, the same people that are imprisoned and tortured and murdered. You've got Uyghur teenagers being beaten by Chinese coaches, not being given an education, and the NBA happily turns a blind eye. Because do you know how much money NBA China generates? $5 billion. You want to understand why Mark Cuban curls up in a ball and starts trembling when anyone asks him about China? Because he wants $5 billion. It ain't complicated. And by the way, why do you think Tim Cook can't answer that question? Because he wants billions of dollars, and Jeff Bezos wants billions of dollars. And so sucking up to evil, tyrannical, communist tyrants is, in their views, a price they're willing to pay because they can have a payday.
Even after, just in the past few weeks, there was drone footage that came out showing this Uyghur minority shaved, blindfolded. You're talking a huge number of these people being loaded onto boxcars. You can see it with your own 2 eyes. But it would appear that critics, leftist critics in the United States, who love nothing more than to criticize their own country, will remain silent when they're chasing the almighty dollar in China. We have a question from John, ties in particularly now with the sad recent passing of Herman Cain and some other political figures. Do you think a lot of the attacks against conservatives that pass away are the new norm? We saw this with Mike Adams, the conservative professor who died, Herman Cain, going back to George H.W. Bush. Is there any way to tone down the rhetoric?
I hope so. Right now, people are angry. They're divided. I do think the really overheated rhetoric is more on the left right now. Both sides do it. And I wish both sides would not get personal, not get nasty. Doesn't mean we can't disagree. But, right now there's a viciousness that's really unfortunate to see. And Herman Cain, I didn't know Herman well, but I got to meet him several times. I spent time with him. I considered him a friend. Look, the guy had an incredible career in business, and his presidential campaign where he ran on radical tax reform. I mean, everyone remembers 999.
999.
And that, but look, in many ways, that was a precursor. When I ran in 2016, I ran on a simple flat tax. And Herman Cain, just radical simplicity is a revolutionary concept. And I think Herman helped usher that in. I think his leadership played a foundational role in the Tea Party movement. And that's important. And, I think he was just 73 when he passed. And certainly our prayers are with his family, and it's tragic. And too many good people have been lost to this virus.
Some people are referring to our state with China right now as a new Cold War. Norman writes in and asks, how can Republicans avoid making America's new Cold War rivalry with China into another costly boondoggle on behalf of democracy or, say, humanitarianism? And I take it from his question to ask, what is our interest? What do we want? How do we engage practically in this rivalry with China?
Well, the answer is we don't engage in another boondoggle. And there are certainly those who who seem to have never seen a country they don't want to invade or happy to send our sons and daughters into harm's way. I don't think that's the right foreign policy. I think we should be very reluctant to engage in military force. But, and this is a very big stop, China's not our friend. They are at war with us, whether we know it or not. China is at war with us. Their objective, the communist government in China, their objective is global domination. Their objective is to utterly and completely defeat us. And so when it comes to China, I'm reminded of what Ronald Reagan, when he was elected and he was asked, what's your objective in the Cold War? He said, it's very simple. We win, they lose. And all of the intelligentsia, they were astonished that this ignorant Philistine, no, you can't have a we win, they lose. No, we need détente, which I've joked is French for surrender.
Yeah.
China's intent towards us is entirely malevolent. Just today, story broke about the Chinese government hacking into the Vatican. They're literally trying to break in and spy on the Pope. Our answer has to be that we have to defend America. We have to stand up to Chinese aggression, not by sending the Marines into Beijing, but by combating them, stopping their theft of intellectual property, stopping their systematic efforts to destroy U.S. production of critical infrastructure, PPE, pharmaceuticals, rare earth minerals, bringing the supply chain back to America, calling them out. Reagan understood tyrannies fear truth, they fear light. When Reagan called the Soviet Union the evil empire, it was powerful. I actually, in response to the story about the Chinese Communist Party hacking into the Vatican, I tweeted out today, I said the CCP is the new evil empire. That clarity scares the hell out of them. And we've got to have clear-eyed vision to have the economic strength and the military strength. I believe in peace through strength. If we're weak, then we risk military confrontation. If we're strong, that's how we avoid the boondoggle.
Weakness invites aggression. It's a lesson that people seem not to learn from history, but it seems clear to me. All right, we will have to leave it there. Until next time, I'm Michael Knowles. This is Verdict with Ted Cruz.